Welcome everyone to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a really interesting linguistic adventure, and it starts, well, surprisingly simply. Our source material for this deep dive is actually from a great lesson by the Motecker channel, and it's focused on Indonesian language. But this isn't just about, memorizing phrases. Our mission really is to dig into the linguistic gems and the cultural insights that are kind of hidden inside what looks like a pretty straightforward conversation. So maybe you're just starting out with language learning, or perhaps planning a trip to a buzzing city like Jakarta, or maybe you're just curious about how language and daily life connect. If so, you're definitely in the right place.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And what's really fascinating here, I think, is seeing how a seemingly basic everyday chat can suddenly swing open the door to this whole world of practical knowledge and deeper understanding. We're going to explore those aha moments, showing how just a few lines of conversation aren't just words, but they're a living part of Indonesian culture that can really boost your grasp of the language.
Okay, great. So let's unpack this scenario then. Our source material kicks off with something super common, right? A real world problem. So picture this. Donnie has a field trip, needs to get to the Schmitzer Primate Center in Ragunan, and, like many of us, he's a bit lost. He tells his friend Hana, "Masalahnya adalah aku tidak tahu bagaimana cara ke sana," which is, the problem is I don't know how to reach the place. Is that like a super familiar challenge in a city like Jakarta, or is this more of a language lesson setup?
Oh, it's absolutely familiar, not just for Jakarta, but really for any big, dense city. This isn't abstract at all. It's immediately relatable if you've ever needed directions somewhere new. And you hear this really natural flow between Hana, Donnie, and then Andi chips in later. It shows practical Indonesian, how people actually talk about getting around their city. It's exactly the kind of chat you might overhear.
Right. So the conversation starts with Hana asking Donnie, "Kemana kelasmu akan mengadakan karya wisata besok?" Which means, where's your class going for the field trip tomorrow? And Donnie answers, "Kami akan mengamati pusat primata Schmitzer di Ragunan." So, we're going to visit the Schmitzer Primate Center in Ragunan. And that kind of sets up the main problem. Like, how does he get there?
Exactly. And that's where Hana comes in, like a true local expert. She doesn't just wave vaguely, she gives a specific route using Jakarta's public transport, the Busway. She says, "Dari Harmoni, naik Busway menuju Blok M, Lalu ganti jurusan dari Dukuh Atas menuju Ragunan, dan turun di pemberhentian terakhir. Ragunan adalah pemberhentian terakhir jurusan Dukuh Atas Ragunan."
Wow, okay, let me try and break that down for us. From Harmoni, take the busway heading to Block M.
Right.
Then transfer from Dukuh Atas terminal to Ragunan, get off at the last terminal. Ragunan is the last stop of the Dukuh Atas Ragunan route. That is incredibly specific.
Fizz.
But then Andi, who's also listening, asks a really smart question. I think it's something any learner or frankly any traveler would ask. He says, "Tunggu sebentar, mulai dari Harmoni menuju Blok M di pemberhentian mana aku harus berganti bus." Which is, wait a moment, starting from Harmoni to Block M, at which terminal should I transfer? That's the key bit, right?
Exactly. And Addie's question is just perfect because it hits that common confusion point in directions with multiple steps. It's that need for clarification that makes the dialogue feel so real. And Hana's answer is just as precise. Di pemberhentian Dukuh Atas. Ganti ki jurusan Dukuh Atas Ragunan.
So at Dukuh Atas stop, transfer to the Dukuh Atas Ragunan route.
Simple as that. It's It's really a masterclass in giving clear, usable direction, breaking down what could be confusing trip into easy steps.
Yeah, and that clarity isn't just good for Dani, it's like a gold mine for anyone learning Indonesian. It immediately throws us into some really core vocabulary for getting around or even just understanding conversations about travel. Sets things up perfectly for what we're digging into next.
Right. And speaking of those key words, let's dive right into the specific vocabulary the lesson notes give us, because understanding these is, well, it's your direct path to not just getting this conversation, but actually using the language in real life in Indonesia. It's all about those building blocks.
Okay, so what are some of the standout words from this list that we really need to get a handle on?
All right, let's start with pemberhentian. That means stop or terminal. You saw it when Hannah said, turun di pemberhentian terakhir. Get off at the last stop.
Right, pemberhentian.
And the sample sentence they give is, setelah melewati perempatan jalan, kita akan turun di pemberhentian Harmoni. After passing the intersection, we'll get off at Harmoni stop.
Okay, so the place you stop. Makes perfect sense. And then ganti caught my eye. That's a verb. To transfer.
Yes, ganti.
Like in, karena tidak ada bus langsung ke Ragunan, sebaiknya kamu berganti bus di Dukuh Atas. Because there is no direct bus to Ragunan, you should transfer at Dukuh Atas.
Exactly. Then we have terakhir, very useful adjective. It means last.
Terakhir, last.
As in, kereta terakhir berhenti pada pukul 12.00 malam. The last train stops at 12 midnight.
Gotcha.
And given Dari's trip, kari wisata is obviously important. It's the noun for field trip.
Kari wisata, field trip. Okay.
The example is, kelas kami akan mengadakan kari wisata ke museum bahari liburan musim panas nanti. Our class will have a field trip to the Nautical Museum in the summer holiday.
These all feel so practical. Like we'd use them straight away. Besok for tomorrow, simple but vital. Mau kemana besok? Where do you want to go tomorrow?
Essentially.
And mengamati, to observe, links back to the primate center.
Yes, to observe.
Dalam praktik biologi, para murid sedang mengamati pergerakan siput. In biology practicum, the students are observing the movement of snails.
Right.
And lastly, teman sekelas, classmate, a common one for school contexts. Anak itu bermain dengan teman sekelasnya. The kid is playing with his classmate.
Those are all, excellent starting points, foundational stuff. But, some words, even the ones that seem simple, often have more nuance or different uses than you first think. Like when I look again at Dari, ganti, and pemberhentian, I see words that can really expand a learner's expressive range.
Okay, I'm curious about Dari. My first thought is just from work, from school.
Right.
But the notes hinted it's more versatile. What else is going on there?
That's a brilliant question, actually. Because Dari is one of those tiny words that does a lot of heavy lifting. Yes, it's the main word for from, like Dari kerja, from work, or dia baru pulang dari gereja, he's just come back from church. That's the basic meaning.
Okay.
But it also functions really elegantly as of or made of. Think about a phrase like manusia dari besi, literally man from iron. But we'd understand it as man of steel.
Ah, I see.
Or mainan the perua dari kayu, the toys made of wood. So knowing that flexibility, it instantly helps you interpret and even build more complex sentences. It connects origin to composition.
Wow. Okay, that is a huge aha moment right there. It's not just physical movement.
Exactly.
So what about ganti then? We saw it as transfer for buses, but does it stretch beyond that?
Oh, absolutely. Well, ganti ke jurusan tanah abang kota is clearly transfer to the Tanah Abang Kota line in transport. Ganti also broadly means change or transform. So you could say ganti pakaian for change clothes. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Or even something bigger, like ganti pemerintahan for change government or transform government. It kind of bridges that very specific action, like switching buses, to a much broader idea of change or transformation. It's a really useful verb.
That is incredibly useful to see one word working on multiple levels like that. And pemberhentian, we got stop or bus stop. What's the deeper layer there?
Oh, pemberhentian is a great example of how understanding root words helps. It comes straight from the root berhenti, which means to stop or to halt.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's commonly used like pemberhentian selanjutnya next stop or pemberhentian terakhir last stop for buses and trains. But knowing berhenti helps you connect it to the general action of stopping anything. You can berhenti walking. A car can berhenti at a light.
Okay.
So pemberhentian becomes more than just a bus stop. It's a stopping place in a more fundamental way.
These words really are like linguistic Swiss army knives, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Serving multiple purposes, super efficient building blocks for learners. It's not just memorizing, it's grasping the core idea.
And that grasp, that understanding leads us perfectly into the grammar focus of this lesson, which ties directly back to giving directions and describing sequences, how to describe consequences or a series of actions. This structure is just incredibly useful, especially for mapping out a route or even just telling a story about your day.
Yes, absolutely. That whole sequence, Hana gave Donnie Harmoni to Blok M, transfer, then Ragunan, that was this grammar point in action, wasn't it?
Perfectly. It was step by step.
Yeah.
The model the lesson gives is really clear. Pertama-tama plus verb plus complement plus lalu kemudian plus verb plus complement plus dan plus object, which basically translates to first, then, or first, then, and finally. It gives a really logical flow.
Right. So if you were giving directions to, I don't know, a theater, you could use that structure.
Exactly.
Pertama lurus sampai di perempatan jalan, lalu blok kanan dan jalan sekitar 100 meter, kamu akan menemukan gedung teater itu di sebelah kiri jalan.
Perfect.
So first, go straight to the intersection, then turn right and walk for about 100 meters. You'll find the theater building on the left. It builds the instructions right in.
Precisely. And what's great is this isn't just for physical directions. You can use exactly the same pattern for almost any sequence of events, like your daily routine. For example, pertama-tama dia bangun tidur, lalu rapikan kamar, tidur dan mandi.
Okay, so first he woke up, then he tidied the bedroom and took a bath.
Simple as that. It makes the grammar instantly relatable, Turns these abstract rules into practical tools you can use right away.
That makes so much sense. It shows how flexible one pattern can be. And speaking of directions, what are some of those must-know basic phrases for getting around the essentials?
Yeah, the lesson highlights a few key ones that will definitely save you some confusion.
Yeah.
You've got Jolan Luris for go straight.
Jolan Luris, straight.
Blok Kanan or Bella Kiri for turn right or turn left.
Kanan right, Kiri left. Got it.
Perempatan Jalan for intersection.
Perempatan Jalan.
Lampu Lalu Lintas for traffic light.
Traffic light, okay.
And Putaran for U-turn.
Putaran U-turn.
Master those, and you're pretty well set for giving or understanding basic directions. They're like your core navigation toolkit.
I remember trying to navigate somewhere new without even those basics, and it was definitely an adventure.
I can imagine.
Are there common mistakes people make with directions in Indonesian? Funny misunderstandings?
Oh, definitely. A classic is mixing up kanan and kiri right and left, especially when you're stressed or in a hurry.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Or sometimes people give directions using landmarks that only locals know, which isn't very helpful. And sometimes, honestly, the issue isn't the language, it's just the Jakarta traffic making any directions feel impossible.
Huh. Good point. Language and context, right?
Always.
Now, what if you're the one asking for directions? The lesson gives us ways to do that too. The simple way looks really flexible.
It really is. The most straightforward way is bagaimana plus kata plus destination object. Remember, kata means way or method.
Right, kata.
So, bagaimana kata ke Ragunan is how does one go to Ragunan? Or what's way to Ragunan? But the beauty is you can use bagaimana kata for almost anything. Like bagaimana kata pakai mesin ini.
Ah, how do you use this machine?
Exactly. It works for travel, it works for processes, super versatile.
And for more formal situations, like asking a stranger or maybe an official.
Yeah, for those times you might want to be a bit more polite. You can start with permisi, which is, excuse me,
Demisi.
Bana del machala ini. Bagaimana cara ke sana? So, excuse me, where is this address located? How does one go there?
Right.
And again, super flexible. You can just swap out the object. Di mana alamat gedung ini? Where's this building? Di mana alamat kantor ini? Where is this office? Di mana alamat hotel ini? Where is this hotel?
That flexibility is key, isn't it? It really empowers learners.
Absolutely.
You're not just memorizing one phrase, you're learning a template you can adapt. Helps you understand and give directions yourself. So useful in a new city.
And that brings us really smoothly, actually, to the cultural insight piece. Our language lesson kept mentioning busway, right?
What busway?
And that's not just a random word for bus. It specifically means Transjakarta.
Yeah.
Which is like absolutely central to life in Jakarta.
Yeah, this is where the language lesson really connects to the pulsing reality of Jakarta, Transjakarta, or the busway, as people call it. It's not just a bus service, it's this massive vital system in one of the world's biggest cities. I can only imagine the traffic without it.
It's hard to overstate its importance, honestly. Transjakarta is a bus rapid transit system, a BRT. It launched back in 2004. And what's really interesting is that the whole system was adapted from a successful model in Bogota, Colombia.
Oh, wow.
Its main goal from the start was to tackle Jakarta's, infamous traffic jams, especially during rush hour.
So a very deliberate strategy to fix a huge urban problem. And it's obviously grown a lot since 2004.
Oh, massively. The first route was just Kota Station to Blok M Station. Kota Blok M.
Okay.
But over the years, it's expanded incredibly. Now you can pretty much reach every significant part of Jakarta with it, and it even goes beyond the city proper, connecting to suburban areas like Tangerang and Bekasi with these things called busway feeders. For millions of people, it's truly their lifeline for getting around.
That's an incredible scale. And there was something about an incentive too for students.
Yeah, that's right. To encourage use, especially for students going to school early, the fare between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. is cheaper. It was RP 2000, which when the source was written was like 17 US cents. After 7 a.m., it goes up to RP 3500, about 30 US cents. It's a small difference, but it nudges people to travel early and makes it more affordable for students.
That detail really adds another layer to understanding that dialogue we started with, doesn't it?
It does.
It's not just abstract directions, it's tied into this whole system that shapes daily life and movement in a megacity. The busway is a huge part of Jakarta's rhythm.
It absolutely is. You know, when you look at megacities globally, these big public transport systems like Transjakarta, they're like the city's arteries. They influence everything, commutes, the economy, urban planning, even how people interact. Think about how people schedule their lives around it, or the shortcuts they use in conversation. Just saying busway. Understanding that system, even a little, gives you such a richer context for the language and how it reflects that urban reality.
And there we have it. Wow. We started with what seemed like a simple chat about a field trip.
Yeah.
And we've journeyed through essential Indonesian vocab. We've kind of nailed down those really useful grammar structures for directions and sequences. And we got this fascinating insight into Transjakarta, this absolute lifeline of Jakarta. It's amazing how much you can unpack from one lesson.
It really has been quite the journey, hasn't it? And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. How might understanding a local transport system, even just a bit, change how you see a foreign city? Or maybe a new language you're learning. It's not just about the A to B, is it? It's about feeling the pulse of a place, the flow of life, how millions of people move and interact within that space. It really is a gateway to deeper cultural understanding.
That's a really powerful thought. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Indonesian language and the vibrant life of Jakarta.
Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe.